Hello, everybody. This is Sinema77, horror cult film lover, and I'm back with another video. We're going to do a movie review tonight, and this is going to be one of two. I'm going to go ahead and do the second one next, but of course, we're going to start with the first one. Tonight, we're going to talk about the erotic horror thriller Devil in the Flesh, starring Rose McGowan. And here pretty soon, we'll talk about the second one, starring Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. I almost keep wanting to say Jamie Lynn Sigler, but yeah, no, it's Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. Now, let's see, 1997. Okay, so that's when this came out, I guess. So yeah, so I guess Rose McGowan must have done this either right before Scream or right after Scream or something like that. But I think this is more of a direct-to-video. If it was ever released in theaters, it was pretty much a limited release film. This comes from the good folks at Mill Creek, and you know what the weird thing is though? Okay, it's like I got this DVD. I think I didn't pay more than $1 for this, but it's on a Mill Creek DVD right now. Mill Creek DVD. That's not exactly the highest end quality you could ever get, but the sad thing is, it's like I watched the second one on streaming. Now that's really really bad. When a Mill Creek DVD, the picture quality looks infinitely better than it does on streaming. I mean, I'm just saying, but that's pretty low, So yeah, just kind of weird. But anyway, so getting right into it. All right, our movie begins basically. You see Rose McGowan. Hang on, got a picture for you here. So you got Rose McGowan here, and the movie starts. She's standing there, and she's kind of like she's traumatized. But in the background, there's a fire going on, and the firemen are trying to find out like what's going on and everything else. And she's, basically she's kind of like she's in a state of shock, and she's not really able to give them any answers. And so she's pretty much put into this kind of like child protective service kind of a thing. And so they find out that she has a grandmother, and she's gonna the character, her name is Debbie Strand, and they're going to take her, and she's going to be raised by her grandmother and everything. And so she's being driven over, and the lady from protective services, she's asking her, do you know anything about your grandmother? When was the last time you saw her? And she's basically saying, yeah, I don't really know anything about my grandmother. And so she takes her there, and the grandmother, at first she seems very sweet and warm and inviting and all this. And then we learn pretty much right away that the grandmother is a religious fanatic, and she's one of these really like really into discipline and stuff like that. And find out that she's pretty much very physically and verbally abusive towards her. And so she's really upset, and she's asking, can I have, could you help me get some clothes or something? I don't have any clothes and everything. She's like, you got clothes up there in the closet. And it turns out these really old, frumpy, like nothing any schoolgirl would ever wear in her, in her right mind, So, and she's like, yeah, your mother, you know, she wore stuff like this and everything else. And so, like middle of the night, she goes to bed, but like middle of the night, her grandmother wakes her up and tells her she's got to get up early because she's got to go and clean out the attic and stuff like that. And then we find out that she's got this dog, and this dog doesn't really care for her too much. And so she's going to school, and she's wearing these frumpy clothes and stuff. And then she ends up meeting this one guy. He's like kind of like a captain of the football team, jock type. And so he's kind of like picking on her and everything else, and kind of giving her a hard time. And we're introduced to Peter, played by Alex MacArthur, who, in my opinion, he was always an actor. Like if you ever saw the William Friedkin movie Rampage, he was so chilling in that movie. He was such a good actor in that, and he was always an actor I always thought he never really kind of got the credit that he deserved. But but yeah, we find out basically that his character, Peter, is he's kind of like the one male teacher that all the girls just swoon over, and all the girls are in love with him and stuff. And Debbie here basically ends up becoming no exception. She falls instantly, just like head over heels for him. But there's a problem, and the problem is that he's got a girlfriend already. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. Okay, now this movie does have some eroticism to it, but if you're going into this movie thinking you're going to see some Rose McGowan nudity, then yeah, you're going to be disappointed in that. I'm afraid probably your best bet for that would be to watch the movie Doom Generation. That's the movie that she did that, as far as I can remember, she does nudity in. So hang on one second. Now, like I said, we find out that the character Peter does have a girlfriend in the movie, and the girlfriend is played by actress Sherry Rose here, right here. And for those of you who may not know who she is, Sherry Rose, probably if you're a horror fan, probably the two things you're going to really remember her from, you're going to remember her from Tales from the Crypt. She was in 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt. She was also in the movie Demon Knight, but you're going to remember her from this episode here. She was, the episode was called Only Skin Deep, and it was directed by William Malone. And yeah, so, in that episode, she plays this abusive asshole jerk of a guy. He goes to a Halloween party so he can, mess with his ex-wife and stuff. And so he's in the kitchen and he meets her character. And, she's got this mask on throughout the whole movie. And so they go to her place and they have a wild night of passionate sex and stuff like that. But he realizes he's been drugged and he wants her to take off the mask only to realize like that's actually her real face. And she brought him there so she could cut him up and take his face. So that was one episode that she was in. And the other episode she was in, this one here is, she was in the episode called, sorry, throat's a little dry. She was on the episode called On a Dead Man's Chest, which was directed by William Friedkin. And, she played the groupie who helps this guy get a tattoo on his chest because he wants to get even with Tia Carrere because this guy's in a band and his guitarist falls in love with Tia Carrere's character and they want to get married and him and Tia Carrere don't get along at all. So Sherry Rose's character here helps him get a tattoo so that and the tattoo was supposed to show how he was going to get justice on her and everything else, and then everything goes to hell from that. But yeah, so she's the one who's she's the one you get nudity from, so bless her heart for that. But so yeah, you do get nudity. It's just it's going to be from her character here. So anyway, so yeah, that's the picture from her in the movie there. So as you can see, she really looks really stunning and fantastic. I think she has almost kind of like a Maria Bello quality, if you ask me. But so anyway, we're going to get back to the movie. So anyway, so back to Rose McGowan here. So in the movie, Debbie, she decides, she really wants to try to win over Peter's affection. And, it seems like Peter and his girlfriend, they're kind of on turbulent ground at the moment. And her character is a flight attendant. And, he decides he wants to have a yard sale. And she was talking about like, no, we were going to go away for the weekend and stuff like that. And, I changed my schedule with another girl so that we could go off this weekend. And he's all like, I'm really really sorry about the whole thing, but I already got a couple of my students coming over, and so she's like, okay, fine, whatever. So she decides, she's not going to stick around, and so when she's gone, Debbie decides that she's going to really try to put the moves on Peter to try to win him over, but he's the kind of guy like he, as far as he's concerned, they just strictly have a teacher student relationship, and it's not going to go any further than that, and basically, so Debbie ends up going kind of all fatal attraction, kind of the crush on him and stuff like that. And she decides that she's gonna be with Peter and she's gonna win over his affection, and nothing is gonna stand in her way, nothing or nobody. And the thing I think is interesting though is like, even though the way I describe Debbie in this movie, the thing is actually like her character, even though she does some bad things. There is almost of a Norman Bates kind of quality about her in the sense that she does bad things, and yet there you do feel a sympathy for her character, and the reason why is because a lot of this stuff, whenever she ends up doing bad to somebody, for the most part, it's somebody who starts something with her first. So it's like usually if like in one case, when she first meets Peter and she starts realizing she likes him, she finds out that she's got some competition there's another girl named Megan, not Megan, Megan, and turns out that she's really infatuated with Peter as well. And at one point, they both volunteer to go help Peter with his yard sale, and he's like, "That's great, you can both come along, whatever." And Megan comes up and she knocks Debbie down on the ground and tells her, "I know what you're up to, bitch. You better stay away," and all this other kind of stuff. And and Debbie, gets back at her by pushing her down a flight of stairs. Doesn't kill her, but she ends up, pretty much taking out her leg. But then also too is like Debbie ends up killing the grandmother character because the grandmother ends up just becoming too. She ends up just becoming too rigid with the religion and stuff like that, and ends up becoming too abusive. She's hitting her with the cane and all this kind of stuff, and the dog and everything. So she ends up basically she ends up taking the dog and putting it in a trunk, which that's probably about the most evil thing she does in the movie. Is she ends up taking this dog and sticking it in a trunk so it basically suffocates to death. Um, if you're an animal hater, though, you could easily say, well, the dog's always giving her shit all the time. So yeah, you could understand why, she wouldn't give a shit if the dog suffered or not. But at one point, she finally snaps, and the grandmother, is hitting her with the cane. So she takes the cane away from her, and she just starts clobbering her with the cane. And the grandmother's mercy, mercy, and she's all like, no wonder why my mother turned out to be such a bitch. Do you have any mercy on her? And your whole thing is spare the rod and spoil the child. So I have no mercy for you, bitch, and all this other kind of stuff. And so she ends up beating the grandmother to death and everything. And then the woman from protective services comes along, and she's all like, yeah, I need to get you out of here. And she's like, yeah, but I don't want to leave. I met somebody. But she's like, no, I got to get you out of here and all this stuff. So Debbie decides basically she's gonna take out the woman from protective services. She's gonna take her out as well. And so anyway, so yeah, but then really I mean, she does some little, bad things and stuff in the beginning of the movie, like when her grandmother won't buy her clothes. She meets this girl, and this girl becomes like a friend of hers, and they go to a clothing store, and they're looking around. And Debbie decides she's going to go ahead and she's going to steal some clothes, and she doesn't have any money to buy clothes. Her grandmother's not going to buy her any clothes and stuff like that. So she goes in and she takes some clothes and everything else, and her and this girl end up hanging out. But probably I would end up saying about ends up becoming the probably like the worst thing Debbie does is she ends up basically killing the female friend. And hang on just a second. She ends up killing the female friend so that, sorry, just trying to, so you have something to look at here. Sorry. But anyway, though, she ends up killing the female friend, and she is basically making it look like she committed suicide because she keeps going after Peter, like she keeps showing up at his house, and he's telling her like, you and I were not together and all this kind of stuff, and she's making it seem like it. Like at one point, she makes him think that his girlfriend invites him to the restaurant, but he goes there to find out that she's there, and she basically sets it up so Peter ends up having a fight with a couple of guys, ultimately because she wants him to see if he would fight over her and that kind of thing, and so so he's getting in trouble at school with his job and everything. And actually, the funny part is the principal of the school is actually played by Wendy Robbie from that everybody remembers from People Under the Stairs and Twin Peaks and stuff like that. So weird to see her play a not crazy person in this movie. But I mean, any minute you're waiting for her to go like, "May the students burn in hell." But so yeah. And then ultimately he flat out tells Debbie, it's like, you and I, we are never going to be together. And I'm in love with this other woman, and, it's going to be me and her and all this other kind of stuff. And so, Debbie, fakes it to where she's killed herself. But, as Peter thinks more about it, he realizes like, no, she didn't actually kill herself, because he remembers that this friend of hers had, she had like a tattoo across her wrist, and he remembers that he saw the tattoo on the headless corpse that was supposed to be Debbie here. And then so he starts putting two and two together, and he realizes that, oh my god, Debbie's still alive, and she's going after my girlfriend and everything else. And so he races back to try to get to his girlfriend, and then we have a confrontation between Peter and Debbie here and the girlfriend, and where ultimately Peter is wounded, but he's not killed, and kind of the same thing happens to Debbie. She's taken away by police, and she's basically it's like she's going to be locked up for life and everything else. And yeah, that's pretty much about where the movie's going to end. Of course, we got the sequel, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much about it. The movie's not bad. Like I said, it's an interesting little flick. I think they did try to do a sequel to this, and I think the reason why I think they were going to try to make a franchise out of this, and I'll get to why it didn't really work so much when I review the second one. But for the first movie, though, Rose McGowan, she did a pretty good job. I think she was interesting. She was fun to watch. But like I said, the thing is, um, there is a sympathy you feel towards her character. I mean, a lot of this stuff that when she ends up doing bad things to people, a lot of the times it's kind of like people kind of keep doing, people kind of keep bringing it on themselves that she's going to end up doing something bad to him. For instance, like the jock character, at first he's like making fun of her because she's wearing these frumpy looking clothes and doesn't look hot and everything else. But he starts following her, and at one point she's like, she's leaving the house, but it's like she ducks so she can change and get into her hot girl clothes and stuff like that. And so he's watching her, and he's like, I mean, this guy's got a super rapey vibe all over him and stuff. And so he's one of those kind of he's kind of like the stereotypical jock asshole characters you've seen in movies before. He's the kind of guy, because he's like captain of the football team and stuff. He gets what he wants. Nobody ever tells him no. He always gets his own way. Nobody's ever gonna tell him otherwise. That kind of thing. And at one point, he barges into her house and he tells her, that you're going to be a good girl for me. And basically, that's what he's going to do. He's going to either she's going to give it up or he's going to take it from her one way or the other. And so she's like, okay, just kind of like calm down and stuff. And so he's all like, yeah, I'm going to let it be known that you're harassing this teacher if you don't, put out and stuff like that. So she's like, okay, so fine. So she goes upstairs with him and they start, and she's like, okay, I guess we got to do this. And he's getting really too rough and stuff like that. And he's like really forcing himself on her. Dude shows no tenderness whatsoever. I mean, he's really just being rough and everything else. And ultimately, Debbie fights back, and she's able to knock the guy off, and she ends up, killing him. And then when she's beating him or she's burying him and stuff in the yard, she's having this little monologue about where she's talking about like, why is it guys like you always think that you can get whatever you want and girls are objects to you and stuff like that. And it's like, anybody ever teach you that no means no, that kind of a thing? When a girl says no, she means it, and that sort of thing. So I mean, so Debbie is, like I said, for the most part, she does bad things, but at the same time, you always kind of feel sorry for her. A lot of the times, like people kind of bring this shit on her, and she's, basically like reacting what they're doing to her. And so I would say kind of like the two most evil things she probably ends up doing in the movie, like the most evil thing she ends up doing is like I said, she takes a dog and sticks the dog in a trunk and lets it suffocate to death. And but then again too, like I said, some people, if you're not an animal lover, you could be like, well, that's the thing, dog's a little shit. Dog's always giving her problems all the time. So, yeah, it's like, who cares? The dog was trained to be mean to her and everything else. So she's just getting rid of the dog so it won't be mean to her anymore. And then, yeah, probably the most horrible thing she ends up doing is she ends up killing ends up killing this girl who tried to be her best friend so that she can make it look like she committed suicide. But so anyway, so yeah, Devil in the Flesh. It's a good movie. It's a pretty good watch, honestly. Yeah, you're if you watch this movie, you're definitely gonna feel callbacks to like Fatal Attraction, especially like The Crush, the Elisa Silverstone movie. You're definitely gonna feel a callback to that. But anyway, though, like I said, I think they were gonna try to franchise this, and I'll wait and explain more about that when I get into the second one. But so yeah, I say if you come across this, like I said, I didn't pay any more than $1 for this, which was not bad at all. So if you come across this for a good price, I say go ahead and pick it up, check it out. It's good little horror erotic thriller, and you know got some good kind of slasher movie elements to it and everything else. So yeah, so I thought Rose McGowan did a pretty good job. She was pretty interesting in here. So anyway, so that's gonna about do it. Yeah, we talked about Devil in the Flesh, and pretty soon I'll talk about Devil in the Flesh 2 with Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. So if anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I really do hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would like if you please like and subscribe. I do weekly videos. I do shelf by shelf of my movie collections. I do haul videos. I do movie reviews, things like that. I'm always trying to find new ways to keep it entertaining. So yeah, hopefully you'll come back, and hopefully you'll enjoy my content. And this is it. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, and I thank you again for watching. Take care, have a good night, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.